Cellular respiration is how we change the organic compounds in our food into energy we can use. The chemical equation for cellular respiration is an organic compound plus oxygen yields carbon dioxide, water, and energy. But since glucose is often the organic compound, we can also use glucose plus 6 oxygens produces 6 carbon dioxides, 6 waters, and energy. There are 3 stages to cellular respiration: glycolysis, the citric acid cycle, and the electron transport chain. Let's start with glycolysis. There are 2 stages of glycolysis, the energy investment stage and the energy payoff stage. 2 ATP are actually spent in the investment stage, but 4 are created in the payoff stage, creating a net gain of 2 ATP. This occurs through substrate-level phosphorylation, in which 4 ADP, or adenosine diphosphate, gain 1 more phosphate each, becoming ATP. In glycolysis, glucose is split into 2 3-carbon sugars called pyruvates. 2 NAD+ electron carriers are reduced by picking up the hydrogen atoms and charged electrons released through the oxidization of glucose, becoming 2 NADH. 2 H2O molecules are also released in this process. Upon entering the mitochondrion, the carboxyl groups of the 2 pyruvates combine with 2 oxygens to release 2 molecules of carbon dioxide. What's left are 2 acetates, which then combine with coenzyme A to form 2 acetyl-CoAs. The hydrogen atoms and the charged electrons from the oxidization of the pyruvates combine with NAD+ to form 2 more NADHs. The acetyl group of acetyl-CoA now feeds into the citric acid cycle. The citric acid cycle has many steps, each catalyzed by a certain enzyme, but basically, aided by water and some enzymes, organic fuel is oxidized, releasing filled electron carriers and carbon dioxide. By the end of the citric acid cycle, 4 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 NADHs, 2 ATP, and 2 FADH2s are produced per glucose molecule. FADH2s are another form of electron carrier formed when an FAD picks up 2 hydrogen atoms. Next, the charged electron carriers head to the electron transport chain in the inner membrane of the mitochondrion. The charged electrons are then released, and they travel down the electron transport chain until they meet up with half of an oxygen molecule and some hydrogen ions to create a molecule of water. Meanwhile, hydrogen ions are released into the outer compartment of the membrane through protein channels in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. The hydrogen ions travel back down their concentration gradient through the molecular mill that is ATP synthase. The hydrogen ions power ATP synthase, which cranks some phosphates and adenine together to form ATP. So let's take a look at the number of ATP produced in cellular respiration. In glycolysis, 2 ATP were produced. In the citric acid cycle, 2 more ATP were produced. And in the electron transport chain, about 34 ATP were produced, leading to a total of 38 ATP per glucose molecule. Sometimes, when oxygen is not readily available, our cells go into fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation is common in our cells when we exercise and our muscle cells have a shortage of oxygen. Lactic acid fermentation is similar to aerobic cellular respiration in the beginning. Cells undergoing fermentation go through a similar process to glycolysis, in which glucose is split into 2 pyruvates, 2 NADH are filled, and 2 ATP are formed. Once the 2 NADH are filled, however, there is no oxygen or electron transport chain to go to, forcing the NADH to empty another way. Lactate dehydrogenase aids the pyruvate in converting into lactate, emptying the NADHs to become NAD+ that can return to glycolysis to repeat the process. The burning in our muscles that we feel when we exercise is our cells undergoing lactic acid fermentation and creating lactate.